Miniature Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, today we're going way back to the early 1900s to vintage baseball. We're going to be running our own baseball team, not just the players and catching the balls, but we're also going to be upgrading the bleachers or upgrading the field itself or the press boxes or the concessions. We're going to be running a business, hiring different stars and prospects and doing all the different things. This is an economic Euro game called Lords of Baseball. Let me show you how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. Lords of Baseball is an economic Euro game where you're going to be running your own franchise. You're going to be starting with a front office and a farm system and a manager, and you're going to have a roster with stars, some regular players, some prospects, some money, some media, and you have an overall team quality of 7. Over the course of the game, one of the things you'll be doing is you have different aspects of your stadium that you're going to be upgrading, whether it's your field or bleachers or concessions or press box, and that's just one of the avenues of the game. Now your company's going to be run on this board here on Boston, as you can see, and I have 1 star, and star players are great. They give you great team quality, but they're going to cost you the most money over the course of the game. I've got regulars. I've got 8 of those. We track that here. This is going to help with how good my team is, but they're going to cost me $2 each when it's time to pay them at the end of the end of the year. Prospects are great. They're cheap. They're $1. They're going to help me get points. For every 5 prospects I have at the end of a round, I'm going to get points, which means the game is not just about winning games, it's about running the best business. Here I'm tracking how good my team is, I'm going to be able to track money down here, and I'm going to be tracking my different aspects of my company, like my farm system, my manager, my front office. I've got a pretty darn good manager to start off. That's giving me a 4 team quality. Stars give you 1. And then regulars every 3. Every time I get to a new level I got here. So this tells me where my starting team quality is with 4 plus the 2 plus the 1. I'm at 7. This is going to have to do with, when we play the regular season, how good is my team? So in general speaking, this is what we're managing. Now here's the main board of the game, and we're going to be going through different phases and a certain amount of years. Now you could play a 3, 5, or 7 year game. 3-year game is going to be about 2 hours if you're new to the game. So the longer ones can be longer, but there is a way to sort of save and come back later and play a little bit more. Now each of these years is going to go through a bunch of different phases. We're going to go through spring training, then the regular season, then the postseason, then finances and points, and then hot stove, which is essentially the off season. Now in spring training, you're going to be basically simultaneously selecting cards. You're going to get 3 of them by default. You'll get more the better your farm system is. And so you'll get 3 cards. All these are multi-use. You'll only be selecting 1 thing from each of these cards, so you got to figure out what your priorities are. Some cards don't do anything at certain spots. Like here, I can upgrade from a regular to a star. It's going to make me better at playing games. Here, I might call up from a prospect to a regular, again, making my team a little better, but maybe giving me a little bit less points because prospects are good for trading and such. Trading, you can trade all different things, like a star for 3 prospects and $2. You could do that trade in either direction, or a prospect for $1, or a star for a regular $1. You can decide to be on either side of those. You can pay $2 to get 3 prospects, or $3 for 3 prospects, or $3 for 2 prospects, and there's different things that you can sign here. Sometimes you'll be able to add fans. Now fans are important because at the end of the round, you're going to get $3 for every fan you get, and this is more fan expectation than anything. Now most of this is done simultaneously, and then we're going to go to the regular season. Now we're playing a 3-player game here. 3 of us are these teams: Boston, Brooklyn, and New York. Now the other ones are going to be non-playing teams, but it's okay, it doesn't matter. It actually works really well. When you're playing someone, for example, the schedule is going to come out. Boston, we're playing St. Louis. This is going to simulate 22 games that you'd play against that team throughout the whole year. And I'm playing St. Louis. They are at a team quality of 7. But right now I am 2 right here. So we're sort of tied going into the series. Then you're going to play a card. Now you're going to have 1 card for every series you play in the regular season. These cards do all sorts of different things. Some of them allow you to just work on your team and your business. Like these ones, lose a regular player and gain a star player. And that star player comes from the supply. So you're going to get a star player. Or you could just gain a 1 regular. Again, some of these cards have multi-use. Sometimes you might be able to do a trade right in the middle of it. So middle of the season, you can trade a star for 2 prospects and $2, or vice versa. Or you can draw a spring training card and do the trade on there. Sometimes you'll be getting things like, hey, gain a fan for each bleacher section in your stadium. The stadium I showed you a little bit earlier, you'll be able to build that up, and these cards will give you sort of strategies to work on. Maybe some things like, hey, roll 2 dice and add your front office value to that value, then you get a certain amount of fans depending on how good your front office is. Or, hey, if you have any stars on your team, add an extra quality per start of the series only, and you get to add a second die. Because the way it goes is, you're gonna roll 2 dice, one for you, one for the non-playing character team. In this case, we were tied team quality 7-7. We're up 2 here, so we basically beat them by 2. If we had played this, we would have gotten an extra one. We actually would have been able to roll a second die and take the better of the 2. So some of these will impact the actual series you're playing in. You're gonna wanna play those against specific teams that are maybe better than you. Or maybe, hey, gain an extra team quality for this series, roll an extra die. So some things will affect the series, a lot of things will affect the business. So let's say we were up by 2. In this case, we went 12-10 against them. So if you had lost this, you would have won 10 games. If you won this series, you would have won 12 games. You could see it sort of scales. So, it's not crazy different unless you absolutely blow somebody out, but I haven't ever really seen that happen. But here, we would have won 12 games. And so I would have taken this, I would have moved to 12. And as you can see, as you win more and more games, you'll be getting more and more points. So even if I get to 84 games won, I'd get 5 points, 90 is 6. So you think, hey, points is great, winning games is points. Yes, that is true, that is one of the strategies in the game, but it's not the only strategy, because as I showed you earlier, you'll get points for having prospects. You can get as many points as winning 84 games if having 20 prospects that you could do other things with, like sell them for money and trade them away and things like that. So you do that, you have basically 7 games, so you do that 6 more times. You'd play all the teams. If in this case I'm playing New York, so essentially myself and the other player would play a card face down. We'd resolve at the same time. There's a little number that tells you who goes first, and then you play against that player. And so you're moving each other's game markers who won. Now at the end of the regular season, you know how many games you've won, but some of these teams win a certain amount of games too. Like the best team here is Chicago. They won 88 games. If somebody beat this and all the other players, like if one of these 3 players beat the 88, whoever had the highest games, they're going to go to a championship series. We're going to have sort of a little bit of roll-off to try to win another point. Also, any team that got beat by all humans gets removed from the game. All the other ones get shuffled back in with the better teams, and better teams are going to start coming out, so as your team gets better, so do the ones you're going against. You're also then going to go through finances. Now, everyone's going to get $80 of income, but then you're also going to get $3 for every fan. So you want to drive your fans up because it's going to bring in more money. Media, these are used to get extra cards and things like that. Sometimes they're used to spend for points in certain ways, but you can also sell them at any time for $5. Some stadium upgrades will give you money. We'll go over that in a little bit. So you're getting income from different areas, but then you got expenses. You're going to have to pay your stars, depending on how many stars. If I have 4 stars, it's $50. That's quite a bit of money. $2 for every the regular, $1 for every prospect, and then you have to pay based on your front office and such. The prices of each of them are up here, and then here, like I have to pay $13 to my farm system, and $7 for my manager, and $10 for my front office, and things like that, and then you have money left over. Now, as I mentioned, you're going to be getting points for how many wins you got. If you won that championship, you'd get a point. Then you can invest. And also remember, every 5 prospects is a point. That's huge because that gives you a completely different strategy from winning games to still be competitive in the game. Investment, you can buy points. So $30 if you're in the first 3 seasons gives you a point, and $50 for the rest of the seasons if you're in there. So again, you could just create a money engine and buy points with it as opposed to making a team that actually is really good on the field. Then you're going to go to retirement. You'll draw one more than number of players, and starting with the player who won the least amount of games this season has to pick one of these that would affect them, like losing 2 regulars, or losing a regular and a prospect, or making your farm level go down 1, or front office down 1 and 2 regulars. So the lowest player is going to pick one, then the next lowest player is going to pick one, and whoever was in first, because this was a 3-player game, has to do both of these if they can. Then you're going to go to the hot stove, which essentially is the off season. We're going to be using things. Now, you'll get a certain amount of cards, but if your front office is good, you'll get some more. You can always spend media to get more cards as well. Now, the team with the least amount of points at this time gets to select one of these sort of things to happen. Like, hey, either each team gains a point for each press box in their stadium, or scouts, each team loses the following. So you can decide that whoever's losing kind of gives them a little bit of a bump to get back into the game. Each player is going to have these cards. Again, you'll get 3 of them by default. And much like spring training, these are multi-use cards. Like you can do a trade. You can try to roll dice to try to get a better manager. You can get some stadium actions, which I'll show you in a minute. You might be able to change your front office. Like, hey, drop your front office 1 level to gain a point. You drop your farm system 1 level to get a point. Pay $8 to gain 1 in your farm system. Or you might be gaining media. So let's talk about some of these stadium actions, like, for example, 2. So there's different areas of the stadium that you can upgrade. Now you start with a level 1 bleachers, field, press box, and concessions. Now, as I mentioned earlier, during income phase, these are going to be getting you money, like 5 and 5, for example. Now to do a stadium action, I could buy this. This would be $10. It's a level 2. I could put this anywhere where I could. I could put it here, 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 or here, for example. But now this is always going to be concessions. Now this cost me $10. I'll get 5 every income, but as you can see, there's some cards that will give you certain things depending on how many concessions you have, how many tiles you have out, and things like that. And these get a lot better as they go on. Now also for a stadium action, you can innovate, which is like if I had 2 more stadium actions, I could remove this one for 1 action to get to deeper, better ones. Like this one is $20. If I had $20, I could do this. Now it's going to give me $5, but also during income, it's going to give me $3 for every bleacher I have. So now I'm going to want to try to like combo this together with bleachers. And all of these do different things. Like the bleachers, the best one of the bleachers is going to give me 1 point for every, the best of the concession is going to give me the best things for the bleachers. If you work on your press box, you're going to be able to spend a media for a point. Or at the end of the game, you're going to get 5 points if you get all the way to the best press box. The bleachers are going to do different things. They're going to allow you to, hey, during spring training, gain a fan, or gain a point at the end of the scoring phase, or at the end of the game, 1 point per every 4 fans. So comboing bleachers and fans together. The field is all about getting a better team. So it can be raising quality. You're going to be not only raising quality, but also rolling an extra die in all your matches and using the best value there. You'll be scoring points. So there's all different ways that you can have strategies of your team with the different things you build up in the stadiums. Now also at the end of the season, there's going to be a bonus. Now this is actually drawn at the beginning of the year, so you get to have something to plan through. And only one of these is going to be there, but I'm showing you 3 for examples, like most prospects at the end of the season. The most fans, or maybe the most concessions in your stadium. Now, and all of these, if you do this and you're in first place, you get a point. But if you're in last place, you get 3 points. If you're in the middle, you get 2 points. So it helps sort of balance things out. But these are the different types of things that you'll be going for. And this gives you focus at the beginning of each season to score at the end of the season. And then you'll go to another year, you do this again, and again, you're gonna play 3, 5, or 7 years, and whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. And I did not show you all the rules of the game. There's quite a few of them, but this is a good high overview. I want to preface this review by disclosing that I did do a preview for their crowdfunding campaign, which I was compensated for. And I don't typically review games that I do those types of videos for. That was a long time ago I did that video. But in this case, I wanted to because, spoiler, I love the game and I really want other people to become more aware of that. Now, it does not change my opinion whatsoever. The fact that I was able to do the preview video for this, that is completely a separate thing. This is the actual review of what I think about the game. The preview videos never have any opinions. I never do opinions with games that I'm compensated for. This one I was not compensated for, so I am going to talk about the game itself. Now, first of all, I also must preface that I do love baseball. But I would say that if you're an economic game fan that doesn't even care about baseball much or even know how it works, it doesn't matter. You can still like this game because it's more about running a business that happens to be a baseball team. So that's like the first thing I want to say. So, but with that being said, it does feel like you're running a baseball team. You're managing everything. You're managing spring training of what you're doing with your team. You're managing the regular season as to what you're doing. Are you doing mid-season trades? Are you doing things that, are you reaping the benefits of other things you did in previous seasons, right? Are you then, you're building your stadium up. You're doing the off season. You're getting your income. You're figuring out, okay, I got all this income. I got these fans. I got even more income, but then I got to pay the stars. How many stars do I want? They cost a lot of money, but they help me on the team. You're running the team, you're running the business. What am I gonna do with my stadium? What am I gonna upgrade? What do I wanna combo together? Think of those different aspects of the stadiums as sort of like little mini Euro tracks there. I love that there's multiple paths to victory because I think most people are gonna play this game. They're gonna be like, well, I'm just gonna build the best team and I wanna win games. That is what players that just start playing this game do because it seems like it's the one that would make the most sense. And it is one actual viable strategy in the game is to go heavy on stars and regulars and win a bunch of games. But that's not it. It's not just about winning games. There's prospects. You could go max out your prospects, right? You're going to get as many points as somebody else almost winning about 80-ish games if you just have 5 prospects. And you can get points in other ways, because if you have a lot of prospects, that means you're not spending as much money as somebody that has a better team with stars, which means with that money, you're going to be able to do more things. You're going to be able to increase your front office or your manager or your farm team, or you're going to be able to innovate on your stadium more. You're going to be able to buy points. So there is multiple strategies here, which I love with the game. I like that there's different ways to get team quality. So stars get them for you. It's an expensive way to do it. Regulars do it too. It's less expensive, but it takes more actions to get them. Managers do it, which it's harder to get a good manager past the next to the last of the high level, because you've got to roll basically 11 or 12 to get it. Stadiums, certain aspects of stadiums will get you points during the game and at the end of the game. I like that there's multi-use cards. So you get these cards, you're looking at your strategies, you're thinking about what you're trying to do. You're like, this card, I want to go with this one because this is the best thing on this card. This card, I really need to do this, but this isn't a great ratio for this thing, but it's the only way I get to do it this round, so I'm going to do it. Clearly, some cards are better than others at certain things. Like you might see one that's like $1 for a prospect. You might see another card that says $3 for a prospect. You're like, well, clearly the dollar is better. Yeah, but what else on that card do I need to do that's better than something else on that other card? So it's a lot of like looking at things and deciding from these cards, what's my total plan for this season? I like it, and all those cards drive your strategy, which is really important. When you play the regular season, most of this game is actually simultaneous, which is kind of cool. But the regular season has a Challengers feel. Challengers was a game that came out last year. It was very popular. It won the Kenner Spiel des Jahres, and it's a game where like you're all simultaneously playing against each other. You do a little mini game. You get up and you go and you play against someone else. This has that feeling, but this has been being worked on for years. I played an early version of this game like 4 years ago, which was way before Challengers came out. And so it has that feel of like, do this little 5-minute mini game, maybe, actually probably not even 5 minutes, like 2 minutes, a minute or two. You do this little mini game, then you play against another player. And if you have a whole table full of players, you do it. But even if you're only playing against 2 players, when you're playing the non-playing teams, it doesn't, sure, it's not as cool as playing a player, but there's not any management. It's very easy. There's not a lot of maintenance to keep up. It's like you're still having fun, but it is fun also to play with other players where you're doing this. It has that Challengers feel. If you liked Challengers, you'll like that aspect of the regular season. I like that you're building up your stadium in all different ways, as I showed in the overview. Much of different strategies, comboing together the bleachers and the concessions and things like that. There's a lot of economic decisions in this game. So overall, I just want to say, before I get into the things that no game's perfect, I really enjoy this game. I think it's awesome. I love economic games. I love baseball. This is right up my alley. If you love one or the other of those two, if you love economic games but don't care about baseball, still give this one a try because it's really cool. If you love baseball but you're not super into economic games, there's a decent amount of rules in this game. If you're used to very light games, it might be too heavy for you. If you don't mind medium weight game, but you love baseball, but you're not huge in economics, it is an economic game, but the theme might bring you to like it more. So things that I would, like if I were to make a wish list of things that I would love, or things that other people might not like, the game might be too random for some players. Look, it's a Euro economic game. It's tight with money. It's this and that. And you are rolling a bunch of dice. You're rolling dice for your manager. You're rolling dice in the winning the games. You could just roll bad and have a better team than someone else and not win as many games, right? And so your whole strategy might come down a little bit because of that, but there are ways to mitigate that. You could, if that's what you're really going for, you could focus on the field, getting better team quality that way, and getting dice mitigation that way. There's cards that help you with dice mitigation that you could be using. So it can be too random for some, I think. It didn't bother me too much because there are ways to mitigate it, and that's not the only strategy in the game, and that's only one piece of the game. If you go into it thinking the only thing I'm going for is wins, the dice might be less favorable to you than if you're like, no, I'm going to try everything here. Now, one other aspect is, well, one thing that could help that mitigation even more is if you were to draft the cards for just the regular season only. Because if you're going for a specific strategy, you're going to want specific cards because it's a card game too, right? You're getting cards, so that's a lot of randomness too. You might just not get the cards you need. The game is long enough already, which I'll get to in just a moment. Drafting will make the game longer. It's not in the rules, but it is one way that you could mitigate some of that luck house rule it if you wanted to. I wish there was sort of a variant official rule for that. I did talk to the designer about it. They said, yeah, since the game is already lengthy, they didn't want to add more length to it. But if the randomness bothers you that much and it's the only thing keeping you from loving the game, I would draft the regular season cards. It's only going to add another 5 minutes per season. I think it would really help in that. I would have liked to have seen different stadium tile sets per game length, because the stadium tiles, there's a certain amount of them, there's certain costs, and it's the same stack whether you're playing a 3-season game or 7-season game or 5-season game. And things ramp up every each season, and so definitely what you're looking at and what you can do in a 5 or 7-season game is much different than what you could do at the end of a 3-season game. And so I would have loved to have seen them rebalance these tiles, one set of tiles for each season. Maybe there's less tiles in the stack, so you can innovate faster with less actions in a 3-season game, because you're going to have less stadium actions normally. Make it feel like the normal, the 7-season game, but pare it down a little bit. I would have liked to have seen that. The press box isn't quite as valuable, I'd say, in a 3-season game because of the way that the economics work with it and things like that. Again, these are sort of minor nitpicks for me. They don't break the game for me, but it is something I would have loved to have seen. I know it would have probably tripled the development time for this, but it's something I would like to see. Maybe in an expansion, they can come out with different tile sets and things like that. The game might be too long for some. The short game, which is 3 seasons, in my experience, has been 2 to 2 hours and 15 minutes-ish. Now, granted, usually that is most people's first game. I feel like you could do it in 2 hours if everyone knows what you're doing. The designer, I had this conversation with him. He plays a season in 30 minutes, he says. So he's done it in like an hour and a half. I have not been able to hit that mark. So I would say patiently it's 2 hours for 3-season games. So, it's going to be 3-ish, 3.5 for 5, and more for the 7. So it can be too long for some. Also, the last thing is the graphic design of the stadium tiles. I wish there was like some vintage sort of washed out or like photos or images of the actual things, but you could still read the aspect that's there, like what it costs, what it this. Having just a stale color on there isn't quite as nice as, like, they could have put bleachers and made them look better and better with each tile as you get down, but have it sort of like not transparent but lighter so it doesn't take away from the graphic design. I would like to have seen that too. But again, these are all minor nitpicks. I love the game. It's fantastic. And for all these reasons, it's staying in my gaming library, which doesn't happen often these days. So it's getting a Saxophone Serenade. So here we go. Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, and if you missed their 4.0 Kickstarter, you can still late pledge and take advantage of over 40 unlocked stretch goals and early fulfillment. This campaign featured a new Young Sherlock table, perfect for children's gaming, and movable coffee table, 10 new thematic mats by top artists like Vincent Dutray, a new designer art series Minecraft topper with thematic art from Brent Woodside, and some of the best package deals they've had, including game mat bundles. Go to GameToppersLLC.com or click the link below to late pledge now.